Greetings, friends, and welcome to another episode of Good Questions. Today, I want to talk about Christianity and other religions. There are a lot of questions about it. Are other religions valid? Is Christianity the way? When I think about other religions, I love the story I've told before, but it makes me laugh every time. Martin Buber was a Jewish philosopher, and he was speaking to a group of Roman Catholic priests up in New York City. And later in the Q&A, somebody brought up the difference between Judaism and Christianity. And he said, well, the difference between Jews and Christians is that we're waiting for the Messiah to come. And you guys believe he already came and you're waiting for him to come back. He said, I propose that we wait for him together. And then when he comes, we can ask him, were you here before or not? And then he added, and I hope if he's asked this question, I'll be close enough to him to whisper in his ear, for the love of God, please don't answer. I love that. Look, we wait for God together. 100 plus years ago, Christians could fan out missionaries. We're going to win the world for Christ. It was like a great ambition. Something that we didn't always realize back then is sometimes trying to convert people to Christianity it could be a colonial endeavor, right? We're almost trying to make Americans out of other people more than Christians out of other people. The Barbara Kingsolver's novel, The Poisonwood Bible, is just a great explication of this. The father goes to the Congo, and it's a hilarious and very moving and inspired story that she tells. Nowadays, if we think about other religions, if you travel around the world, you see people who are very different exposures to different religions. Nowadays, we have neighbors. You may have a neighbor who's Jewish. You may have a neighbor who's Muslim. You may have a neighbor who's whatever. And so we're introduced to more. More is going on. So now, one of the options that people like to think about is, all faiths are the same. They're just different paths to the same God. That might be right, but I'm not sure that works very well. And the reason is these religions don't claim to be the same. Islam doesn't say, we're Christians in Arabic. Islam says we've superseded Christianity. And if that gets on our nerves, we have to realize that Christianity said, well, we superseded Judaism, right? We think about something like nirvana. We think, that's heaven. Nirvana is not the same thing as heaven. We have other trinities out there, Brahman, Shiva, and Vishnu, but it's not really the equivalent of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. So we have these other religions, other cultures. It's an amazing thing. It's interesting to learn about it. I've been privileged in my life to be able to read a lot. More importantly, I've been privileged in my life to befriend Jewish rabbis, Muslim imams, other leaders of other faith traditions. And it's interesting just to ask them a lot of questions. If you get the chance to do this with someone, it's always important too. If you meet a Jewish person and you listen to them about Judaism, no one person can bear the full burden of telling you everything there is about Judaism. It's one Jewish person. Sometimes black people find this in white culture. Somebody meets a black person, they say, what are black people like? Well, they're not all like that one person, right? Anyway, one of the things that we humbly but happily have to say about other religions is that we Christians, we don't have a corner on truth. It's not like all truth is in us and everybody else is evil and misled. There's so much wisdom around the world in other religious faiths, traditions, cultures, and there's no surprise in this. God's good to all people. God always has been good to all people. Thomas Merton said, the existence of so many religions is a sign of God's mercy. It reminds us that there's something in all of us that seeks transcendence, that tries to find something beyond. So nowadays it's more that I think we don't work so much to try to convert other people, because that can be so paternalistic and also ineffective. But also, I remember years ago, Rabbi Jim Bennett was at Temple Israel, and he came and spoke at my church up in Davidson. We were talking about the difference between Judaism and Christianity. He said, my goal is if I as a person can help you Christians to be better Christians, that's great. And if you as Christians can help me to be better at being Jewish, that's great, right? Can we be the best that we can be? Because all religions have their issues, don't they? We think, oh, we read about Muslim terrorists. Well, there have been Christian terrorists. There have been many traditions. Kind of thing goes wrong. One of the things that other religions can do for us, it can remind us of our own. They can remind us of our own lost virtues. Sometimes I've talked to people and they get into Buddhism, Zen Buddhism, or whatever, and they say, "Oh, it's so amazing! They have breathing and they have meditation." Well, we've had this in Christianity, right? Just Christians have sort of lost that. I talked in a sermon recently about the Christian evangelist E. Stanley Jones, who went to convert Hindus in India, and he became friends with Mahatma Gandhi. And he stopped trying to convert Gandhi because what Gandhi helped him with was to see things about Christianity that he and other Christian evangelists had kind of missed. So sometimes that other person can help us to be more. And then we realize also, don't we, that we have our own problems. I remember years ago somebody saying, those Hindus, that's not a good religion because they have social stratification. They have a caste system. And I said, look around at Christians in America. We got a caste system here, reminds us of this. We look at militants in other religions. The Christians have had their crusades. And then I think about that invasion of the Capitol building on January the 6th. Those guys were in there, they were saying prayers to Jesus while they're waving their rebel flags and so on. Craziness all over. And sometimes the practices that we find in another religion can remind us of things that we need to remember. Will Willimon, for years, was the minister to Duke University. He told an interesting story. He was talking to a Muslim student at Duke one day, and the Muslim student asked Will, why don't the Christian students ever pray? And so he was a Muslim, and at the appointed hours of the day, wherever he was, whatever was going on, he would stop, he would kneel on his little carpet that he carried around, and he would pray. He never noticed the Christian students ever stopping to pray. Why don't the Christian students ever pray? One of the questions that we could ask is, are all religions valid? I'd say some religions may not be valid. I knew a teenager a few years back, he made up his own religion in his basement one day. Well, that's fine to do that, but I'm not sure it's going to be able to carry the freight for all of humanity. Some religions have corrupt elements in them that spawn violence and just can't carry the day. I love, when we think about our relationship to other religions, I love what Mother Teresa. Here's a Roman Catholic woman who lived in India, largely surrounded by a predominantly Hindu culture. She said, I love all religions, but I am in love with my own religion. I like that. I love all religions, but I'm in love with my own. And we could ask, what are reasons to be in love with our religions? Now, I've been friends over the years with Muslim imams, Jewish rabbis, and we'll talk about where we agree, where we don't agree. And to them, and even to audiences within those faith traditions, I've tried in all humility to say, I think there's something for me that I love about Christianity that's not in your religion. This is perilous to talk about, but I think it's true. I think there's a special thing in Christianity that the other religions don't have, and I want to hang on to it as being something that is cool, that gives us a kind of vitality, and that is this, that we believe uniquely among religions that God, it's God enveloping more than the universe who made everything, that God actually became one of us. God became an infant in Mary's womb. Now, other religions say, some may scoff, others who are more respectful say, that doesn't seem possible. How could God become flesh? In early Christianity, that was sort of the scandal. People made fun of this. And then we believe that God not only became flesh, but actually was crucified, which is a gruesome, terrible, shameful death. And how could that be God? Like right in the Bible, we have that skepticism that's raised. So we realize that it's got sort of a ridiculous element, but I think a lot about that. And it's what I treasure about Christianity. It's not that Jesus is the only person who said, blessed are those who mourn, or what, teachings or other places. There have been healers in other traditions. But the one thing that we have that is special is that God became one of us. And that means that like your body matters, right? Your body, it may get broken down, like mine's getting broken down over time, but ultimately it will be redeemed. When we die in Christianity, it's not just that you die and God's up there and you hope God notices. What we believe is that God in Christ actually entered into our death. He died a premature death. He died a painful death. He died a death where he had been abandoned by those who were closest to him. He died an unjust death. So whatever it is that we go through, God's borne that from the inside out, and God plans to redeem all of that. Now, Christianity and other religions, there's a lot that we could say. We could ponder different elements of different religions. I think a great approach is to be as respectful as possible, to learn what we can. It's always hard to understand another religion because it's so interwoven in that culture. If you want to understand what it means to be Hindu or Buddhist, these guys live it's an Asian culture, everything, they think differently. So it's hard to understand these things. But boy, you want to listen and you want to learn and you want to stretch and allow ourselves to be questioned by these other faiths. And how does it make us better Christians? How does it make us shed some superficial misunderstandings of our faith so that we can go deeper? And then at the end of the day, can we find ways to be in love with our own religion while we love other religions? Can we love all the other people, be in love with our religion, and really treasure, I think, that special thing that God entered into this bodily life to redeem it from the inside out. I think it's a cool thing. It doesn't make us superior to anybody else, but it's a special thing that I think we want to treasure. Friends, thank you so much for joining us for Good Questions. We'll continue to raise them and talk about them in these videos and in the emails that I'm sending, podcasts and other things. Thank you for joining us.